a favorite quote, favorite poem. I remember once I was at a museum in New York, and I don't remember which one it was, but I remember seeing etched into the wall the poem The Man in the Arena by Theodore Roosevelt. And that was something that hit home so deeply within me that I'd never read it before, but felt like it spoke to the very fiber of my being. And I loved it so much that I came home to Australia and I got it written up and printed and framed so I could hang it on my wall. And I have identified so deeply with that poem. And I have infused it into my being so that when I am faced with adversity, I call on that. And I also find Stoicism beautifully lends itself to that as well. This deep reverence for acceptance, for alchemizing adversity, for not just trying to be a good man, but being one. I identify so deeply with all of those value structures and those constructs, because I do believe that that is the framework with which to live a fully flourishing life and to also be a contributing member of society and to be a good fucking person. I find Stoicism to be very misunderstood. And I also find that people are very reluctant to question things these days, to question themselves, to be, and I mean this from a curious perspective. There's a lot of fear. I feel it bouncing around, and there is also so much adversity, and in that adversity, so much opportunity, but there is a deep reluctance to walk forward into it, and there is so much division. We are so deeply caught up in stories and narratives that I don't think we can see anymore and discern whether these are internal stories or external social constructs that we have just dove into head first with our fucking eyes closed. It astounds me, and I see great opportunity here, but I also see that we are at a tipping point of decisions needing to be made in terms of, are we going to keep letting ourselves be caught up in the vicious weaponization of fear, or are we going to step back and become curious about what the fuck is actually happening internally and externally? I just find we are so distracted, and society is built this way, really. Consistent thing, like dopamine just being absolutely drained from us, and notifications, emails, like life is very, very fast. And I have found myself recently pulling back and desperately craving peace and silence, regulation, grounding, calm. I think we need more of that. But I also think that that is also our responsibility to build that in our own lives. We cannot expect life to slow down. It will not. And we also can't look externally for something to happen. It is an inside job. So many things are an inside job. And I do find a lot of us are sitting there pointing to somebody else saying, well, it's up to them to fix it. But it's not. If we start to look externally for people to be our savior, for governments, for institutions, for things to magically and radically change, we are completely doing ourselves a disservice and actually disempowering ourselves, because you are selling yourself short into what your capabilities truly are. We are far more powerful than we give ourselves credit for, even energetically. If you were to walk into a room and you are in the shittiest of moods, no matter if you're in a room of 2 people or let's say 10 people, if you are in a terrible mood, then your energy will somehow infuse itself in that room and it will be felt, right? On the other side, if you were to walk into a room and you are just in an incredibly amazing, joyful, beautiful mood, that will also be felt, because each person has an impact. Great or small, we have an impact and we are accountable for that impact. And we need to actually think about things, think about how we impact ourselves, how we impact our initial immediate world, and then how the ripples flow out from there. If we start to look at that, if we start to look at how we can actually make change, how we can become curious about our thoughts, how we can take radical accountability and responsibility for our lives, things can actually change. Things do change. I'm not talking about saving the world. I'm just talking about having better fucking days than you've had previously, because you've decided to take control of your own life. You've decided to ask yourself some questions and change some expectations and maybe question some old thoughts that have been running in your head since high school. It starts with questions. It starts with curiosity. And it just goes from there.